Now, these changes to Mother Earth are also happening to us. We are changing. We are moving from being a limited conscious being, which we are right now, as the Earth is a limited conscious planet. Where I'm going to take a drink. We are altering ourselves, and this altering can be characterized as physical or mental or spiritual or emotional changes. All of them are there, and what is happening is they are moving toward providing us with becoming a fully conscious being. And a fully conscious being's chakra system is a little bit different than ours, and this gives you an idea of it. We're going to be talking about all of this in a short while. Now, what I'm going to do is get into my story about who I am, and as it says, you may ask, who am I? Well, since I was a toddler, as it says here, I have been teaching. I've been getting teaching and learning experiences aboard craft, and my sister and I are mutually convinced that we were really raised by our space family, the Sirians. So what happened to me when I was a kid, which made me very unusual and kind of made my life extremely unusual, is the interaction with the Sirians. Basically, I have been a contactee since I was as young as I can remember anything. I've always been a part of what the Sirians were doing, and I've always had a chance to be able to get knowledge from them and to see their technology and to interact with them, which is amazing. Let me say that fully conscious beings are very angelic. They are extremely caring, and their energies are enough to completely change any feelings of negative aspects you may have, such as being angry, being upset. Whatever feelings of stress or anxiety you have go away. So what would happen to me is they would just tell me to lie down, and I would be, to use the Star Trek terminology, I would be teleported, I'd be beamed up. So what would happen is I would be told by Washta to get up to the ship, and I like this little picture that Miriam did. This is I used to call this place the mattress factory because these beds would go on forever. I mean, this is a huge place. It was like a storeroom for a furniture store. And so you would have these incredible beds. They look like regular beds, but they were not at all like that. They were formed exactly to your body. When you got in them, you felt immediately, even if you didn't feel that tired, to want to go to sleep. So what happened is I would lie down. I'd come home, I would lie down, and they would send me up, and then I would get up there, and then Washta would wake me up, or else one of his aides would be there. He always had an entourage around him of at least 50 people. And then I'd wake up, and I'd get out of the bed. You would feel like you were in this funny little dream that where you felt like you were in an elevator that was going down very fast. That was the kind of feeling that you got. And then you would get up and get out of this place, the mattress factory, and start walking. And this is a picture of Washta, basically. He was an incredible guy. His eyes were such that when you looked at him, he looked very angelic, as you can see, but he also had within him this energy that calmed you down, that made you understand that whatever you needed to do, you could do. And he was, of course, very tall. He was a perfectly proportioned guy. He was about 7'4", and he was huge. And to me, little me at 4 and 5 and 6, it was extremely like this giant was there. And all of a sudden, I was surrounded by a forest of these giants, because all the Sirians, the women are at least 6'4", 6'5", and the men are at least 7 feet tall. So you immediately feel like you're this little itty-bitty guy. And so what would happen is I would wake up, I would start walking toward wherever, if it was an aide of Washta, toward wherever Washta was, and I would go through the ship. And, of course, the first thing that when you woke up that you began to notice almost immediately was that this ship was totally conscious. It was alive. and it would greet you. When you woke up, the first thing I would hear beside the voice of Washta or his or her aide was this wonderful energy of the ship. And when you got up and you started walking, you would not feel like you were walking on ground. It felt like there was these series of interconnected clouds, and you were walking from one cloud to another because you never really felt like you were on firm ground. And you always felt like you were floating. And you always were surrounded by this energy of love. You immediately, the ship began beaming it, and all the people on the ship began concentrating on beaming it to me. So he kept telling me when I was a kid, especially when I got to grade school, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., he began explaining to me that I would be a future messenger for the Galactic Federation. Now, I was a very shy guy. I still am. And at that time, I stuttered. I stuttered a lot whenever I was in school or whenever I was in some formal place where I had to talk to people. When I was outside and I was playing, I didn't do that at all. I was perfectly able to speak and didn't have any problems with communicating. However, school to me was very fearful, and I guess the reason for that was because in first grade I had a lady who would constantly shake me if I did anything wrong, and in first grade I had, because I had a very thick German accent, the person was Polish, and she had lost all her family in the war, and so she would constantly, if I said anything, she would constantly hit me with this ruler over my knuckles till they were bleeding practically. So as a result of all of that, I did not like school. And so when I would come to see the Syrians, it was absolutely marvelous. They would heal me. They would heal my knuckles. They would heal all the sorenesses within me, and they would help me to better understand the world I lived in and where the world was going. And also they were teaching me the histories of the galaxy and all their wonderful science of technology. And the way they would do this is they would walk me into this huge room, and in this huge room, let me give you an example of it, I would be in this huge room. There would be this wall over here, and this wall would emanate energy that would basically imitate the energies, the frequencies of my brain. So the result is you would get a energy come over you where you would feel very much like you needed to sleep, and you'd close your eyes. You were once again like with the bed. You were in a chair that just enveloped you and made you feel totally comfortable. You didn't have any feeling whatsoever that there was anything in this chair that was going to make you feel uncomfortable. And then this energy would begin, this program, and it would be a 3D holographic program. And it would be in your mind. And you would remember it when you were finished. And they would teach me everything about the history of our planet, history of the United States, the Revolution, the Civil War, etc. And when they were doing all of this, it would be like you were in this dream where you were suddenly caught in the middle of all the particular events of the Civil War, the beginnings of America, etc., the nature of 15th century Europe, time of the Roman Empire. I had a ball with all this stuff. One thing I wanted to do was travel. And the place I really wanted to travel to was Italy. I wanted to see the sites, what they look like now. I've seen documentaries of it, but I want to really see it in person. Also Greece, and I haven't done that yet. But I'm sure hoping that I can one of these days. So you would be walking, after you finish this, they would walk you back to what I called the mattress factory. That was my nickname for it. And as you'd walk through, you would walk through these hallways, and you would be through the same wonderful energy of feeling like you were walking on a cloud, and the energy of the living computer that ran this mothership was incredible, because if you felt thirsty, out of nowhere in your hand, a glass of water would appear. It would be absolutely pure, clean water. You would drink it, whatever you required. And all the thing was, the light in the ship was not harsh. Even though it was very bright, it did not hurt your eyes at all. You felt you were like an environment. It was like being out in the sun. You did it not without the problem of the sun's light being too bright, like when you go from being in a house to being out on a bright sunny day, the immediate experience for about the first minute or two, if you don't put on sunglasses, is your eyes adjust to the increase in light. And so I would never feel any of that. It was always immediately when you would wake up in this bright place, you would feel no problems of light. And so you'd be walking through the hallways, and this gives you an idea what Sirian is like. And that's what it translates to. And you would see these signs, you would feel the energies of this magnificent ship, and then you would come back, and just as I showed you at the beginning, you would get back in this bed, and you would lie down, and it was almost like 2 minutes. I would lie down. It would be like I closed my eyes and had this long sleep, and I would wake up in my own bed, and I was home, even though I really didn't want to go home. I was in an environment of a very dysfunctional family. And my dad was, you might say, a child abuser. He constantly beat me up because he was afraid. I can understand him being afraid because most people do not have children that are totally involved, as we were, with people from other planets. And so as a result of that, they began to feel this kind of schizophrenic feeling of being in awe, and at the other end, being in total fear of it, to the point of my dad wanting to hurt me. He was always hitting me until I was about 12, and I was strong enough to finally stop him doing that. Then he would continue oral abuse of me. But the important part was the Sirians. Their energies, their feelings of calmness, greater knowledge was amazing. I truly enjoyed it.